Hi everyone, just wanted to do a quick video presentation of my Pleyel piano. As you might know, those pianos are French. They were, the brand does not exist anymore, but I mean it does exist through German manufactured instruments, I think, since 2 years now. But basically, this piano is a very common type of instrument in France, still. For how long, I do not know, but this particular instrument is considered the golden age of pianos in France. It was built in the 1930s, and it is still a French style of piano, meaning the action inside is still a French type of action as opposed to a Renner type action that you might find in a more modern instrument. Now, in regards to the inside of the piano, you can see here the thing that many people look at first, it's the serial number. And you have many serial numbers in the case, but this one is the master serial number inside of the piano, and that tells me that this particular piano was manufactured in 1928 to 1930, depending on when the completed date was. This particular piano has been reworked on once in the past. I do not know when or by whom. But the tuning pins have been changed. They've probably been exchanged for slightly larger ones. And according to my piano technician, the treble and the treble strings have been changed by new ones, the steel strings. But the bass springs are still apparently original, which surprised a lot my piano tech. And actually that made sense because when he told me that, that made sense in my head. Because the sound on the treble is a bit not muffled, but it lacks a little bit. I thought it was due to the size of the piano, but the treble and bass sound does have a little bit of a lack of voice, if it makes sense. But yeah, the frame has probably been re-gilded because I do not think this looks like an entirely original gilding. But yeah, and of course, as on pianos of this era, the keyboard was made in ivory, and you can look at just how beautiful this thing looks. I have never had an ivory and an ebony keys piano keyboard before, but let me tell you, this is another thing. This is softer than anything I've ever played on. This is really amazing. I'm not saying that we should still make keys out of ivory, but as long as they're here and they still exist, I think it's a great thing to preserve. And of course, I put a lot of care. Not much on the rest of the piano. I have to apologize for that and all the dust, but for the keys, you can see that they've been maintained in pretty great shape. They've been repolished once before, as I can tell. So this was a small excerpt from a Beethoven piece I'm working on. Now that I'm done showing you the outside, let me show you the actual very interesting part of this. So I have taken out the action of my piano to show you just what it looks like. And it looks more or less, it's from the 1930s. It does not look like a forte piano action, but still it looks very different. If I show you my Reblitz book here, you can see that there are a couple key differences. The setting of the keys is done through what one calls a comb in French. It's a comb mechanic, which means that all those keys are regulated by a single axis, and this is really tricky to regulate. I've been told. I have not touched at those myself. The repetition settings are slightly different. The pilots are more or less the same. The pivot is slightly different. It's slightly more archaic. And of course, the springs and everything and the jacks are slightly differently regulated as well. Now, when I tried this instrument, I have tried before purchasing this. I knew I wanted to play Pleyel F. I have tried 5 different instruments, and this was the last and my favorite one by far. And I did not understand at that time why that was, although I was suspecting that for a piano that is roughly 100 years old, it's for sure been worked on before if it's in playable condition. And the likelihood of you finding a piano that age that has been worked on correctly in a spirit original to the maker is lower and lower, especially if you do not buy an instrument that's been freshly restored. This piano was the least good looking of all the 5 I tried, but by far the best playing one I tried. And I was hooked to it the moment I played it, and I kept playing it for an hour. And then I said, okay, I'm buying it. But all of that is to say, my piano technician, after assessing the piano, told me that the action is actually in remarkable condition. It has been I'm not going to say restored, but it has been worked on. You can see very obviously that some of the felts have been changed, but some are still original. You know, the resting felt at the back is still original. I have some insect damage on it, and that might need to be worked on at some point, but it's still fully functional. The key bed and the keyboard is really well balanced, although I might need to do some, some leveling, as you can see on the keys. There's a little bit of work that needs to be done, and my piano tech is actually coming back in 3 weeks time to do a full regulation on this. I've let the weather stabilize before I would do it. One very interesting thing that you might be interested in learning is that the hammers have been refelted, and what that means is that unlike a grand piano, a modern grand piano that would have a lot of wear and tear on the hammerheads, where you would just take apart the hammers, buy new ones, and put them in, which is often done on these pianos, and which is a mistake because the new hammerheads that you purchase are not meant and balanced for this kind of piano. Those particular hammerheads have been taken out and refelted, meaning they took out the piano, the hammerheads, they sent them to a company, which is, I believe, the only company still doing this. They're called Defougère. And I was amazed to learn from my piano tech that this is absolutely the only correct way to go about this. I have a little signature from the Chopin Center, actually, that regulated, I think, this in 2020. I think they were the last ones to harmonize this. But anyways, I've got really nice felts. They have a little bit of work to be done on them, but that's going to be taken care of shortly. And I'm going to be able to let you hear what that sounds like after full regulation. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, if you have any questions on that instrument and whether there's specificities of a French instrument like this one, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Have a good one.